All right, welcome to this day 4 of our self-sufficient homestead series on helping people to get from wherever they are now to a higher level of self-sufficiency. And again, it doesn't matter if you're on a homestead, 40 acres, 10 acres, 1 acre, quarter acre, or in suburbia. Today's topic is water. And water is absolutely crucial and is one of the most important topics that we will discuss in this series. They're all important, they're all valuable, but water is extremely important, okay? It really boils down to two buckets, two categories when it comes to water. And that is, one is stored water in some way, that you're storing water. And then secondly, whatever that perpetual source of water that it is that you have. Okay, so if you're on city water, that is a perpetual source of water. Okay, if you're on well water, that is also a perpetual source of water. Okay, so those are the two broad categories of water that are helpful to think of. And, you know, we think about our well, you know, everybody's that lives rural, generally speaking, is either on a well or a community type well. And that is a perpetual source most of the time. Okay, now many of you know and cannot say run your well when the power's out. Okay, or for whatever reason, you know, that water stops. Okay, and then you have to have your stored water to be able to pick up in that time frame. Okay, so that's kind of the two broad categories. And then here's how I think about it, and here's how I teach people how to think about water. Every element of your property, okay, that needs water in some way. Okay, so that could be, you know, for the home, for drinking water, could be for your animals, could be for gardens. All those need water. All those elements need water. And I like to think of it like this. Can you develop 3 sources of water for each one of those? Okay, that is the ideal. A primary, a secondary, and a tertiary source of water for each element. Now, you might not be able to come up with 3 for every element, but you should be able to come up with at least 2. And of course, where you are and where you live is different, and there's different sources of water, etc. I'm standing right here, and it's raining like crazy in the spring in North Idaho, and we get quite a bit of water in the spring, generally speaking. But we dry out for the summer. Okay, so I'll give you an example. So for drinking water, all right, so primary, secondary, tertiary water for drinking. Obviously, our primary is our well. Okay, we turn the tap, water comes out. That's our primary way to get water for drinking and cooking, etc. Now, if that stops for whatever reason, many people will have a backup way to run their well. Okay, so if you're on grid power and that goes down, maybe they have a generator, a whole house generator that can run the well. But a lot of people have generators that are not set up to be able to run their well pumps. Okay, so maybe then you have a hand pump on top of your well, or a solar pump on top of your well, and a hand pump on top of that. Okay, a lot of people have that, and that is a great thing to have. We personally have a hand pump on our well. So our primary is well water. Our secondary is we have a little bit of stored water, okay, in our home, a little bit, not much, and I'll explain why. Because some people might think, well, you want to have, you know, barrels and barrels of stored water. I don't need to. I have a little bit, but basically, you know, that's for that 24-hour type of power outage, which we just had, that we can quickly just shift to that, and that's fine, right? I also have, like I said, a hand pump on that well, so if I really need to, I can pump and get fresh drinking water that way. Okay, so again, primary is well. Secondary is stored water, okay? And like I said, we have a little bit of stored water. And then tertiary, in this case, I'm going to go to that hand pump. All right, that's my tertiary source. Now, I happen to have other sources of water as well. We do a lot of rainwater catchment, so I could easily use that as emergency water for drinking. I would just filter it properly, okay? And I'll talk about filtration in this video as well. Okay, that's for us. Pretty simple. We've got a lot of different sources for water and for drinking, and we're pretty secure in that. And it'd have to get extremely, extremely bad for us not to have water to drink. Now, let's talk about our animals. And I'll talk about gardens. We have gardens in different places on our property, and they actually have a different primary, secondary, and tertiary source of water. And in some cases, they don't have a tertiary source of water. So for example, out back, we have a hoop house that's down from our rainwater catchment system. Primary water for that hoop house, rainwater, okay? And then secondary water for that rain house or that hoop house is well water, okay? I can easily, irrigate from our well, but I don't like to. I like to take the pressure off the well and use it only where I need to. Okay, tertiary for that hoop house would be our pond water, okay, which is perfectly fine. And on and on and on. So you can look at each element of your property and kind of map out, do it primary, secondary, tertiary. And again, in some cases, you're not going to have three sources, maybe, but I can't think of one where you wouldn't have at least two sources, okay? And if you don't have two sources, and a lot of people don't, a lot of people have simply turn the tap and have water or no water at all. That's not a good situation to be in. Okay, so that's what we want to fix today. So I'm going to show you a couple of our rainwater catchment systems and a couple of other small things that we do to enhance our water security. All right, so here's one of our systems that we literally just recently set up. I mean, like within the last week, I set this one up. And again, it just catches off of this one little spot here, but it covers about 400 to 500 square feet of roof as far as catchment size. So I just have an IBC tote right here, and you can see right there, it's about 20% full already. And again, this is pretty much the first rain since we installed it. I don't know, if it rains a bit longer and we get an inch of rain, we will fill this tote, okay? So an inch of rain off of 500 square feet is about 250, 275 gallons. Basically, it will fill this tote. So if we get an inch of rain, this thing will be full. Okay, now this water right here, its primary usage is going to be into that herb garden right there. And eventually we're also expanding this area here as far as the herb garden and putting in a cold climate greenhouse there. And so this water will likely get used for that purpose. Here's an interesting little thing we do with water when we do this, just basically for springtime only, is that we have water coming across the road, and I dig this little micro trench and pull the water. Eventually this will be a culvert underneath the road with a weir gate over there so that we can utilize this water, but this is what I have right now. And that water eventually goes down in here, and it kind of super saturates that draw there that's behind that cedar tree. And that helps that area down there with the moisture throughout the growing season. We run animals in there as well, so it helps things, and we also have some trees planted in there as well. So that's one way to utilize water to try and divert it and put it in an area that you need it and kind of super saturate that area. And you probably can't tell from here, but there's little check dams all the way through there to help slow it down. And like I said, provide moisture, and it's really storing, it's a type of storage, it's storing water in the soil. Okay, and I'm just diverting more water there to get more water in the soil. Okay, so behind me is, again, another one of our rainwater catchment systems. And the one thing I'll mention is rainwater catchment is really interesting because it is a combination of both a perpetual source, rainwater, and storage. Okay, so it's that, those two buckets really combined. The equivalent would be having a well, for example, in a cistern. And so a lot of people do that in rural areas, is that well fills up the cistern, and then the cistern provides water for the house, for example. Okay, so this behind us is 2 totes stacked on top of one another, and it is used to irrigate garden. Okay, now you may say that it's like I can't do, you know, totes and 550 gallon or 1,000 gallon or 1,500 gallon type of cisterns for rainwater catchment. I can't do that kind of large scale catchment. That's fine. You can do small scale catchment. You know, I'm going to show you this system right here behind me. This is just up on our deck where we do a lot of container gardening. And I have an extra barrel here that I'm going to show you that's super simple, and anyone can do it on that level. And it adds a lot of water security. That simple barrel right there adds water security. Okay, so here we go. Here's our little 55 gallons or 50 gallon barrel, plastic barrel. It's got a little spigot right there, so we can put a watering can or a bucket underneath it, and it's got a little overflow there. That's pretty much it. On top, I literally just put screens, like a pretty tight screen there, and then that screen is just there to hold it all in place. And so it keeps mosquitoes out and that kind of thing, but it collects water. In fact, this thing is almost full. It's all the way up to about there right now. And this is just in an area. I got a little leak right there in our gutter. Instead of plugging that or siliconing it, you know, I decided, well, you know what, I'll just keep a barrel here. And then this gives us water for our container gardens out here. And that, obviously this whole deck really gets filled up with containers. But that is a simple little system that anyone can use and anyone can set up. No problem. You don't have to have these large scale systems. And here's one more of our systems. And again, that's more a little bit more large scale. You can hear that water flowing in. And we actually have a little sump pump that we put in there that we use to pull water up here onto the deck to help water our garden. So again, we use this little barrel up here and that water. This deck right here that we're on, we don't use any well water up here. It is all rainwater fed. And so that's pretty awesome. And so I want to show you one more time that system right there. Okay, that's used to water down there in that hoop house, and there's some garden boxes, and there's all kinds of pots here, and there's another little area here. All of that gets irrigated from this. And in fact, last year we literally did not run out at all. I dumped, you know, several hundred gallons at the end of the season to be able to, you know, so again, we didn't run out, which is awesome. Another source of water, if you can do it, is ponds. Okay, so you can see a series of ponds, 1, 2, 3, that have gone in here over the last several years. And that has brought a lot of water security for us, okay? Mostly, I mean, to be perfectly honest, we don't really need it, and we haven't needed it. It's become a boon for our ducks and other wildlife to be able to come in there and enjoy that water. But it is there if we need it. Now, in your case, you may say, like, I can't do ponds where I'm at. Doesn't make sense. But you might be able to do a rain garden. You might be able to create some kind of a basin area where rainwater that flows off of your, out of your gutters and your downspouts, and then off your property into stormwater systems. You might be able to create, like I said, a rain garden or a basin type area where you at least slow the water down first. Don't do it right up next to your house. Do it away from there, away from your foundation, where you can grow some things and have a little bit more water security that way. Again, storing water in the soil is absolutely a method of storage. Okay, now, the last thing that I'm probably going to talk about in this video, as far as water is concerned, is filtration. All right, because I think that's kind of the last step, right? We can all, you know, you can set up a barrel on your house, and there you go. You have a backup source of water. If you have city water or something like that. But then, how do you filter it? Okay, so I'm just going to keep it very simple. There's lots of different ways to do it. There's one way that I recommend that's super simple, and that is simply buying a Berkey. get a Berkey filter. They're excellent filters, and I recommend it highly. I am going to do one of these videos in this series is going to be on a handful of what I call gadgets. Okay, and they are things that enhance your self-sufficiency. They do not replace knowledge, skills, and ability. In fact, I see that mistake all the time. People who are quote-unquote prepared are simply collectors of gadgets and storage. Okay, again, storage is good. Water storage is good, but developing sources is better. Okay, and those two in conjunction with each other work extremely well. And that is what I recommend for everything. I don't care if it's food. Yes, food storage is an excellent thing to do, and you should do it. But you should also grow some food. So people who only store are missing out. Okay, and we will get to that in one of these videos. All right, that's it for now, and we'll see you on the next day.